The 5 things that actually kill a Toyota hybrid. It's not the battery. Toyota hybrids have this myth around them. The only thing you have to worry about is the hybrid battery. When that goes, game over. People are terrified of one thing. What if the battery dies? That's 3, 4, 5 grand, right? Meanwhile, the mechanics and hybrid specialists who see these cars every day will tell you something totally different. Most Toyota hybrids don't die because the battery finally gives up. They die because of a handful of other, very boring, very preventable issues that owners either ignore or never get told about. If you own a Prius, Camry Hybrid, RAV4 Hybrid, RX 450h, or you're thinking about buying one used, you need to hear this, because this is the difference between having a 250,000-mile legend and being the guy who says, Toyota Hybrid's junk, mine blew up at 140K. I'm GearHead. I break this stuff down so you're not guessing about what actually kills cars in the real world. If you don't want to be scared of the wrong thing or pay for failures you could have easily avoided, hit subscribe right now. This is exactly the kind of information that quietly saves you thousands long before anything breaks. Let's go through the 5 things that actually kill Toyota hybrids and notice how rarely the battery just wore out is the real culprit. First, overheating and neglected cooling systems. Hybrids hate heat. Every car does, but hybrids multiply that sensitivity. You've got an engine that needs coolant. You've got an inverter and power electronics that need cooling. You've got a hybrid transaxle sitting in hot engine bays. On top of that, you've got a battery pack that also doesn't like being cooked. Toyota usually does a great job designing robust cooling systems, engine coolant loops sized for long idling and hot climates, separate inverter cooling loops on a lot of models, fans and ducting to pull cabin air across the battery. On paper, it's solid. In the real world, owners destroy it with one simple habit. They treat coolant like a lifetime fluid and the temperature gauge like decoration. Coolant breaks down over time. It loses corrosion protection. It doesn't transfer heat as well. Tiny leaks get ignored because it only needs a top-up now and then. Radiators and condensers get clogged externally with leaves and dirt. People keep driving when the temp climbs just a bit because they're almost home. On a Toyota hybrid, that kind of thing leads to overheated engines, varped heads, blown head gaskets, cooked oil, overheated inverters, expensive failures that can shut the whole hybrid system down, overheated transmission fluid in the hybrid transaxle, accelerated wear. A lot of my Prius or Camry hybrid died early stories secretly start with, yeah, it overheated once or twice, but I let it cool and kept going. Engines and inverters remember that. Aluminum and solder don't just shake off repeated overheat events. If you want your Toyota hybrid to live, change coolant when the manual says to, and if the car is 10+ years old and it's never been done, do it. Fix coolant leaks, don't just top it off. If the car ever overheats, even once, take it seriously. Don't just clear the light and pretend it didn't happen. Make sure the inverter cooling system is bled properly after any work. Airlocks kill electronics fast. The hybrid battery likes to be kept cool too, but we'll come back to that. The point is, heat, not Toyota battery voodoo, is a primary killer. Second, oil neglect and sludge. People assume Toyota engines are indestructible. Add hybrid to that and they think it's double immortal. So what happens? Oil changes get pushed, cheapest oil and filters get used. The logic becomes, it's a Toyota hybrid, it'll be fine. For a while, it is. Then it isn't. Hybrid engines often lead harder lives in one specific way. Lots of on-off cycles, especially on short trips. The engine fires up, runs for a bit, shuts off. If your driving is mostly cold starts and short runs, the oil spends a lot of time not fully hot, building up moisture, carrying some fuel dilution, never quite burning off condensation. Stretch the change interval on that kind of use and you're quietly making sludge. Sludge clogs oil passages, weakens lubrication to camshafts and timing components, loads up piston rings so they don't seal well, contributes to known issues like oil consumption and, in some engines, higher head gasket risk. The hybrid part doesn't save you from bad oil. It just means the engine sometimes runs less, which in short trip city use can actually make oil condition worse if you treat intervals as only by miles and ignore time and usage pattern. If you want to avoid being the person whose bulletproof Toyota hybrid starts burning oil or knocking, use quality oil that meets Toyota's spec. Don't cheap out. Change it at the right interval for your actual driving. If you do a lot of short trips, that might mean earlier than the maximum advertised mileage. Don't assume low annual miles means you can go years between oil changes. Time and trip pattern matter. There are Prius and Camry hybrids running past 300,000 miles with basic, regular oil changes. The design isn't the problem, it's people taking Toyota reliable and turning it into an excuse for neglect. Third, EGR and intake gunk on certain engines. This one hits a specific group hard: Gen 3 Prius, 2010 to 2015 in most markets, and some related models like the early Prius V or Prius Plus that use the 1.8-liter TZR FXE engine. That engine uses an EGR system, exhaust gas regurgitation, to help with emissions and efficiency. On paper, EGR is smart. In practice, on these engines, the EGR cooler, valve, and passages slowly load up with carbon. The intake manifold runners and EGR ports get coated in oily soot. Over time, flow balance between cylinders is affected. What does that do? It changes combustion temps and pressure distribution across the cylinders. Some run slightly hotter. You get more thermal stress in certain areas of the head and gasket. Combine that with long-interval coolant and oil neglect, and you've basically set up a slow head gasket failure waiting to happen. That's why you hear so many stories of Gen 3 Priuses developing cold start misfires, mysterious coolant loss, white exhaust smoke, classic head gasket symptoms around 150K to 250 miles. People blame bad Toyota design or weak head gaskets, but a huge percentage of those cars have never had their EGR system cleaned, never had their intake manifold decarboned, lived on stretched oil intervals and unknown coolant maintenance. On this generation, if you want it to go the distance, you or your mechanic should inspect and clean the EGR cooler and valve before it's completely blocked. Clean the intake manifold and EGR passages, reset adaptation if needed, and then keep an eye on it every 50 to 70,000 miles. Toyota improved things in later generations, but there are still thousands of Gen 3 hybrids out there right now being slowly marched towards head gasket failure by never addressing EGR or intake deposits. It's not the hybrid system that kills them, it's a side effect of emissions equipment plus neglect. Fourth, terrible driving patterns, especially constant short, cold trips. You can take the best engineered hybrid in the world and still hurt it simply by how you use it. Picture this life. Start the car cold, drive 5 to 8 minutes to the store, shut it off, start it cold again, drive 5 minutes to school, shut it off, and repeat day after day, never doing a 20-plus minute sustained drive.
From the outside, it looks like low-mileage, gentle use. From the engine and exhaust's perspective, it's rough. Oil never gets fully hot and stabilized. Moisture accumulates. Combustion byproducts don't get burned off. Exhaust and catalytic converters don't stay at operating temperature. Condensation sits in the exhaust. Internal surfaces see more corrosion. Hybrids make this pattern easier to fall into because people feel smugly efficient. The engine turns off a lot. The dash shows nice MPG numbers on those short hops. But behind the scenes, the engine is aging in a way that's not as kind as someone doing 30 minutes of smooth driving twice a day. This doesn't mean short trips kill all hybrids. It does mean if your life is mostly short stuff, be even more disciplined about your fluids. Consider taking the car on a proper highway or ring road drive periodically to let everything come up to temp and stay there. Don't let, "but I don't drive much," talk you into wimpy maintenance. There are plenty of Toyota hybrids that died not because the hybrid hardware failed, but because the engine and exhaust rotted from the inside out under only 5K miles a year of cold, wet, short drives. Fifth, the boring stuff: suspension, rust, and "I don't want to put money into an old car." Here's a quiet truth. A lot of Toyota hybrids go to the junkyard with a perfectly good hybrid battery and transaxles still working. What's dead is the underbody, rotted from road salt and time, brake lines and fuel lines corroded to the point of being unsafe, suspension completely clapped out, struts blown, bushings split, control arms sloppy, rubber everywhere, mounts, boots, seals, all dried and cracked. Owners look at a 15-year-old Prius with rusty subframes, wobbly suspension, and a list of "you need shocks, bushings, lines, maybe some welding," and they do the math. Cars with maybe $2,500, repairs are $3,000 plus. I'm out. The hybrid system didn't die, the car around it did, or at least the owner's willingness to invest in the car did. Same with RX hybrids and Camry hybrids in salty states and countries. The hybrid bits are fine, the rest of the chassis is tired, and nobody wants to spend real money on a vehicle that old, even if it could go another 100K with a suspension refresh and rust repair. From an engineer's standpoint, that doesn't count as hybrid failure. From a real-world owner's perspective, it's the end of the line either way. So if your goal is to be the person bragging about crazy mileage in a Toyota hybrid, not the person complaining it didn't last, you need to remember, the hybrid battery and inverter are just part of the car. The steel, rubber, and zinc also have an expiration date if you never touch them. Now, bonus one, because this is the only time the battery really is the story. Bad battery cooling. Even here, it's not the cells that are at fault, it's basic airflow. Toyota almost always cools its hybrid batteries with cabin air. It pulls air from an intake vent near the rear seats, runs it through a duct, across the pack, and out. In a perfect world, that's clean air. In your world, it's dust, lint, kid crumbs, dog hair, whatever's floating around inside the car. On a 10-year-old Prius, Camry Hybrid, or Lexus, it's common to pull the trim and find the intake grill blocked with fuzz, ducting lined with hair and dust, fan blades caked so thick they look like they've grown fur. Airflow tanks. The fan has to work on high. Even then, it can't move enough air. The pack runs hotter than it should for longer than it should. Over years, that heat speeds up cell imbalance and degradation. Then you get the classic P0880 replace hybrid battery and related coats. People say, see, hybrid batteries just don't last. But half the time, a $20 cleaning of that fan and duct system done years earlier would have kept the pack cooler and happier for far longer. It's like never cleaning the lint filter on your dryer, then blaming the dryer for overheating. Toyota doesn't scream about clean battery fan in big bold letters in your manual, but if you have pets, kids, or live in a dusty area, it should absolutely be on your maintenance list. So, put all of this together and look at the pattern. The 5 things that really kill Toyota hybrids are heat from neglected cooling systems, bad or stretched oil maintenance that sludges and wears the engine, unaddressed EGR and intake gunk on specific engines leading to head gasket issues, awful driving patterns, cold short trips without compensating maintenance, rust, suspension, and I don't want to put money into an old car syndrome. The hybrid battery? In most of the horror stories, it's innocent, or at worst, a secondary victim of cooling neglect. If you've been scared off Toyota hybrids because of the battery myth, you've been looking at the wrong boogeyman. If you own one, this list should become your checklist. Coolant healthy and not leaking? Oil clean and changed on time? EGR and intake ever been cleaned if you've got a Gen 3 era engine? Do you ever give the car proper warm runs, not just 5-minute trips? How's the underbody and suspension? And is the battery fan intake clean? If you keep those under control, you give your Toyota hybrid a real shot at being that $250K, $300K, I can't believe it's still going car everyone talks about. If you ignore them and just pray the battery doesn't die, you're focusing on the wrong thing, and one day you'll blame the hybrid when it never really was the hybrid's fault. If you want to go deeper into how to inspect a used Toyota hybrid before you buy, what a healthy versus tired engine feels like, and exactly how to clean that battery fan on popular models, make sure you're subscribed. This is the stuff that turns "I hope my car lasts" into "I understand why my car lasts." I'm GearHead. Every hybrid has a story, and together, we're going to make sure yours doesn't end early for reasons you could have fixed with a weekend and a couple of bottles of coolant.